Imagine your all-time favorite band or musician and all the best songs you've heard from them, all the worst songs you've heard from them, and just how much you actually enjoy listening to them and how much you love their music. Let me know in the comments below right now. If you're like me, you're probably into Killswitch Engage. I mean, the band is an ultimate definition of classic, brutal metalcore. It's the band that pioneered the genre. It's just a quality metalcore. And despite recently I have been getting into more of a modern metalcore scene with bands like Fit for a King, bands like North Lane, Killswitch Engage has a very unique spot in my musical taste because of how much weight this band has had on me, my musical taste, and I guess on the genre overall. Approaching the album Atonement, we got a lot of interesting sounds in the forest. We got rather weaker, softer sounding songs, Unleashed and I Am Broken Too, but neither of the tracks had that bang that Killswitch Engage usually delivers. That's what got me kind of skeptical, suspicious about the album. With the first track of the album, The Signal Fire, featuring Howard Jones, I was just blown away because I realized that, well, this album could actually be really fucking good. My face just blew up in smile and pure joy and happiness, at least until the half point of the record. If you want to check that out, like my face during the record, you can check out my Patreon, where I post full album reactions, and for instance, full album reaction to Killswitch Engage Atonement, which is available now for all of my supporters. Let's get this out of the way. Cover art. One of my most favorite things about the album doesn't actually have to do with music, more it has to do with the design. I love this cover art. It is just perfect. It represents metalcore the way it's supposed to. It's so old school, it's so classic, it's so brutal and crazy heavy and crazy detailed. It has this angry ass looking lion and very old school vibes. And that's when me, including a lot of other Killswitch fans, realized that, oh well, if they put out a cover art like this, maybe the album is going to be very old school, very brutal, classic metalcore. Yes and no. The album Atonement might be a little bit calmer and softer than, say, 2002 Alive or Just Breathing album, but it still has a lot of vibes from that album in particular, and maybe even self-titled all the way back from 2000s. It gives off an insane amount of classic riffs, as well as featuring very good sounding vocal harmonies and sick-ass rhythm changes. My absolute favorite of the album is Us Against the World. It's my favorite song of the new record. It's a nearly perfect Killswitch Engage song. It's very melodic, it's very heavy at times. It features a crazy, great sounding riff. It features an amazing sounding chorus. It's actually the best chorus on the album in my opinion. It's just an all-round banger. So if you disagree with me, you're wrong. The Signal Fire comes second for me personally. It's this track that features Howard Jones. This track is a banger, obviously. It's very moshy, it's very heavy, very headbangable, very classic, very fast. Also a little bit short, but features a great fucking solo. The Crownless King, which is another feature by a vocalist from Testament, Chuck Billy, is also a great, fast, heavy, classic track that features a great riff, a great amount of great vocals. It's another great song. It's a little bit less impressive than the first two, but it holds up to the standards of Killswitch Engage. As Sure as the Sun Will Rise fell a little bit flat for me the first time I listened to it. It's not a bad song, but it is very, very standard. From start to finish, there was nothing that I went wow about. And the same could be said about the songs like Know Your Enemy, which, unlike As Sure as the Sun, is a very heavy and fast song, but still feels very filler and kind of empty. Take Control was another good song, but that didn't impress me as much neither. Ravenous was a significant improvement. It kind of picked everything back up, and it was a great song. Ravenous is a really good song, probably like a top 4 of the album. I Can't Be the Only One is a great Killswitch track. It's very melodic, has some heavy parts, features an extremely classic sounding riff. It's just quite good actually. And the album closes with the song Bite the Hand That Feeds, which is a huge, heavy, long track with a terrific groove and then the face-crushing breakdown. The only problem I have with this song is kind of the same problem that I had with a lot of new Slipknot songs. It takes a lot of goddamn time to get somewhere. Some parts are unnecessarily long, and that's kind of where it felt really hollow and empty for me. But otherwise, it's a great song. And here's my final list of my most favorite songs from 1st to 11th, and with all the ratings out of 10. That's how I felt about the songs. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your list is of the album. Atonement doesn't invent anything new. It doesn't explore a lot of new ideas. It stays very, very true to Killswitch Engage sound. It really does sound old school. It really does sound kind of classic. You know, but it uses a lot of old tricks that we've heard a million times before from Killswitch Engage. And yet it still manages to be somewhat charming and just all around a great album. It's an awesome album that could feel a little bit underwhelming. It also feels like Incarnate was this very huge attempt on a very commercially successful big metalcore album, while 2019 Atonement was much more private and sort of closer to the soul of the artists. It felt a little bit more personal to the musicians. Lyrically, it is very inspiring, very deep themes. I think this album should be showed to a lot of people who struggle in life in general with a lot of things happening, because it really can help a lot of people out, and I think that's one of the main aims of the record, Atonement. I also forgot to mention that Jesse Leach is at his absolute best in this album. I think his vocal work is really, really worth pointing out separately. He's just a great vocalist, and he proved it in this album. So, yeah. So finally, why am I not completely satisfied with that record? As a lot of people pointed out, it could feel a bit draggy, a bit boring in the second part of it. And I think it really is kind of flat on the second half of the album. Pretty much every single song on this record is worth listening at least once, obviously. But I do understand some of the frustration that people get and saying that this album wasn't as good as they would expect it to be. Because obviously Killswitch Engage is the name that brings a lot of expectations up. And when you get something that's not like a 10 out of 10, you get kind of disappointed. That's sort of what happens with big musicians. But I think Atonement, despite being very close to the formula, very not brave in the sense of music writing, very sort of standard to the sound, very, very settled down within those limitations of Killswitch Engage sound. It still is a very well-written musically album. It's very technically great. It's very vocally great. The guitar sounds amazing, is huge on this album. It's very good. It's very impressive. The guitar work is out of this world. The bass is kind of where I was a little disappointed. I couldn't really hear it that well, and it wasn't really defined by the mix, I think. So that's one of the letdowns. Overall, it's just a very well-written metalcore album. It might feel underwhelming. It's just kind of a different approach to what we usually associate Killswitch Engage with. I rate this album 8.75 out of 10. It could have been better, but I'm sure a lot of songs that I didn't like on the first listen and will grow on me eventually. Let me know what you think about Killswitch Engage Atonement. Let me know what are your favorite tracks, if you like the album, if you didn't like the album. I'll be happy to join in on the discussion. As always, you can support me on Patreon if you want to. There's full album reactions there. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.